Indra, and I'd like to welcome you to the Messy Middle Matters, where my friends and I explore all the twists, turns, and challenges that arise in the messy middle of work. So, welcome to the Messy Middle Matters. If you're a regular listener, you'll know something different today. I've got a guest, and Amanda's off for the week. So, Victor Malena is going to be joining us. He's the founder of Ops on Tap, and we're going to have a really, really good conversation. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so Victor Malena, founder of Ops on Tap. I actually just started this year. So I started with the goal in mind of fractional operations.
Yeah.
So how can you get someone tactical in your business to help you either start something, fix something, clean up the mess,
Yeah.
but without full-time commitment? Because sometimes these are just short-term projects. Sometimes you can't afford a full-time person. So just helping businesses scale and scale correctly. That's been my intention. And there's been some positive reception to it. But I think fractional is the future, and we're going to see a lot more of it.
I think you're right. I think that's another topic for another day. Maybe you, Ashley, and I can get together. So I first met you through Ashley and the Founders Funders Fractionals community.
Yes, shout out F3.
I love her. I adore her.
She's amazing. She's fantastic.
Have to get her on the pod. I've mentioned her on the pod multiple times. Have to get her into the pod. So today we're going to be talking about the difference between being smart and being prepared, because there is a difference. And I don't want this there is a difference. And we could talk about, like, smart is, I think, much more like book smart, maybe understanding, like, having the right degree, the right this, the right that. And prepared is a whole nother thing. And I think that you and I err towards the prepared side of things.
I think a proper operator always errs towards the prepared side. Because we talked about it during the F3 event that you talked about.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned that story for my manager. Yes. And it really resonated with you. And you're like, we need to do
Let's
this.
do it. Let's do it.
But yeah, backtracking that. So I had a manager when I was at a SaaS B2B company, and his name was Lee Wang. Shout out Lee Wang. He is still one of my very dear friends to this day. But he was younger than me. I think I was 27 at the time. He was 25. He was a director already. He was leading our India operations. And then he slid into, I believe his title was VP of Operations. I'll have to fact check that. But I was in awe of him because, the C-suite people always went to him for answers. Everyone around the company always went to him.
Yeah.
And I commented once when we were at a happy hour, I was like, Lee, you're always the smartest guy in the room. Like, I just want to let you know it doesn't go unnoticed. And he scoffed at me. He's like, I think I'm the smartest guy. He's like, no, I'm not the smartest guy. And he said, I'm the most prepared person in the room. Mm-hmm. And that always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, anytime there's a meeting and we're going to talk about something that I don't know, I always research it ahead of time. And I always ask the questions I need to ask. So I'm always prepared to give insight, to ask questions, to get deeper knowledge. I'm always ready to do that.
Yeah.
And it always stuck with me that I was praising him to be like, you are the smart guy. He was like, no, I'm just prepared. I just know what I need to do. And I know that I need to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. You're highlighting a few different things. And I like the fact that preparation can take lots of different types of forms in that story that you told, right? Like it's there is the research portion, and then there's the coming to the conversation prepared to engage, because it's maybe not a research situation.
Absolutely.
Which one, in your experience, like which one do you find that you rely on a little bit more, like one or the other, or like from a very practical perspective or ideal perspective, like any angle that you might want to?
In my experience, you are prepared to ask questions and open. So the latter of what you were talking about, because with being a fractional operator, being an operator in general, I think you have to come to the conversation prepared to learn and prepared to understand the person's predicament. Because as operators, we're there to fix things.
Yeah.
We're not learning for the sake of learning. We're understanding there's a problem and we have to fix it. So I think for an operator to be prepared, they have to be prepared to be quiet, to listen, to ask engaging questions, to draw on past experiences where they've seen fail points and ask the person, is this the failure that you're experiencing? Or is it something similar to this? But just giving space to learn and understand the other person and where they're coming from.
Yeah, it's a framework that often comes up on the podcast, or like a framing, I guess, not a framework, a framing is just like always having a sense of curiosity.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Yeah. And I think that when you're the smartest person in the room, going back to that, is you don't allow curiosity to breathe. You're not allowing curiosity to take precedent in these conversations, in these meetings, because you are trying to spout off what you've known, that you've seen this before. And I do this sometimes too, because if I'm trying to win over a client, I'm trying to exude confidence by saying like, hey, I've done this before, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And you're killing the curiosity, and you're not allowing the other person to kind of lead the conversation where you need it to go.
Yeah. And so, leaders, whether their smarts are from academia or their smarts are from, leading organizations, and they've moved their way up that ladder to a senior role, they often are comfortable in the spotlight. Not all of those leaders know how to create that space for air to breathe and new ideas to come in. Do you have any, what are your tips and tricks or approaches for creating that space when there is that leader that's just dominating that room, and which sometimes is really useful? Like if you're in like you understand, like they might be on an earnings call, right? That's not a space to invite curiosity. You want to be really clear and have a certain presence. But if you're in a town hall, maybe where you're, navigating change, that may not be the best. How do you help to create that space with that leader?
I think you did a really great kind of contextualizing it, because context does matter. So if you're a leader on an earnings call or during a fire drill, that kind of stern or calm voice that's directing things, absolutely. Now's not the time for curiosity. Now's not the time to venture down these rabbit holes that are going to lead you nowhere. You need results and solutions. So, but if you're a leader and you want to allow, curiosity and preparedness to breathe in the room, bring in a junior person.
Oh, okay.
Allow perspective to enter the room. I think oftentimes, and we've been in them where we're coming up and they're like, oh, you don't need to be on this call, or you need to focus on something else. No, allow the person to be in the room and grow.
Yeah.
Ask questions that you wouldn't even think to ask, because it's allowing diversity of thought in the room. So I think it's incredibly important that you allow people to come in with you. And if, let's say, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is just ask the simple questions. You're talking about ACV, you're talking about customer acquisition costs and stuff like that, and all these acronyms are flying across the room. Ask the simple question. How's that being calculated? How are you doing that? Where are you getting the data from?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is that I think we're scared to be the dumb one in the room. We're scared to look stupid in front of our peers. Yeah. That oftentimes you let the details get away. Like where is if you're bringing it from your ERP system, and it's just like, well, I know for a fact that we're having problems with our ERP integration. It's not bringing it in over the data, so that number is wrong. And you have to piece together these simple questions to arrive at a better understanding of where you are at in your business, where you're at in this project, where you're at anywhere. And I think that's being the prepared one in the room, being prepared to ask those silly questions. I don't want to call them dumb questions, because there are no dumb questions.
Well, sometimes there are, but
no, I don't think so. Honestly, I don't.
No,
I don't think so. I think that there are times where I'll ask the dumb question, like, here's another. If we're talking ACV, which is a vernacular that we know in business and tech companies,
tell everyone what ACV is.
So that's the thing. Am I talking about annualized contract value or average contract value? Two different numbers. Gives you two different calculations. So you got to ask the dumb question. What do you mean by ACV?
Yeah. To me, that's not a dumb question. I was thinking about like really silly, ridiculous questions. But yeah, no, I think that, and I also find that when you're in that room and you're trying to create that space and ask that question, like just like what inevitably happens is somebody over Slack or something else is like, thank God you asked that because I was wondering what they're saying. That's one benefit of it. And the other benefit of it is that it models the behavior of asking a foundational question.
I love that.
Right? That will help everyone just align on their shared understanding, which was one of my favorite phrases.
But to pull on your comment there about like when people like, thank God you asked that question, I think that is creating a culture and that's creating leaders by asking those questions, by being prepared to ask those questions.
Yeah. And in my experience, and I've got stories for days on this one, but in my experience, I think that the people who are more likely to ask questions are women and minorities.
Yes.
And some of that comes from the various conditioning that different folks have had.
Yeah.
And some of that comes from like, I was in a workshop where like one of the takeaways for the people who are listening to this, it wasn't a workshop, it was a panel discussion, was, women will ask the dumb question because they already assume that you think that they're dumb. Like, you know what I mean? They don't have any social capital to lose by asking a question. Right. Which is really interesting. So to me, I think that the more that those of us who are comfortable taking the risk or for whom the risk is lower, whether because I think that I'm a person with like, I have, I have both low and high risk at the same time. I just walk a really fine line and I can do it. I can model the behavior from my white self, like doing that. I hold a certain presence with that, but I also have like a societal difference with my female side of things. So like, it's really interesting just cultivating that and cultivating ways where the people who are the dominants who are not used to being questioned or asking questions, helping them navigate that too.
That's really interesting because I do feel that being a minority in the room, the assumption is, for me, is this person might not be as educated or might not know, certain vernacular and how we speak. So I use that to my advantage and I ask the questions. And sometimes asking the obvious question in a non-condescending way.
Sure. No, you have to appropriately and tactfully, right?
Yeah, tactfully. I think it diffuses the situation where I can enter the conversation a little more gently.
Yeah.
Because now we're speaking, we're now saying like, hey, we're not operating on the same playing field. We're not operating on the same, kind of preparedness.
Sure.
Let's peel it back and let's talk at a level that we're all comfortable with.
Yeah. And that benefits everyone.
Yes.
Absolutely everyone in that room, no matter what their seniority is, no matter what their personal background is, no matter what their education is. Because we all have biases. To your example before, that like an acronym can mean 50 different things. Like, and it's just, and we do love an alphabet soup in today's modern workplace. Like, it's like, what do those letters mean today? Just my favorite one. My favorite one is PM because I come from the school of program management and all of that stuff. And then product management, and then it can be something performance management. It can be like 500 other things probably too. So, but
it's funny you say that because doing ops on tap, I'm like, oh, I do FSA work. You say FSA to everybody, they're just like, oh, the federal savings account. And I'm like, no, I mean financial solutions architecture or financial. There's just so many different ways you can split that acronym. So I think speaking clearly, asking the questions like, what do you mean by that? I think just gives us a level of communication that we're all comfortable with.
100%. Like side topic, our most popular episode is always downloaded episode is our second episode of all episodes, but it's words matter.
Okay.
Because I think that's a very popular thing to think about, talk about in our society right now.
Yeah.
But one of the takeaways was have a shared glossary. Like people write them down, have a spreadsheet.
So funny you say that. whenever I go into a meeting with a client,
Yeah.
I say, hey, I'm going to speak your language.
Yeah,
Like, let's say they're implementing a new system. Systems have their own words,
Yes.
and vocabulary. I'm not going to try to teach you these words. You teach me your words,
Yes.
your vocabulary.
Yes.
Let's do a sheet.
Yes.
Let's do a Google sheet. It's free.
It's free.
Why not?
Yeah.
And that way we could start speaking the same language, and I can say like, hey, you say project phase in NetSuite or in any other system, it's milestone.
Yeah.
So when you say phase, it means milestone. When I say milestone, that means phase.
Yeah.
And start learning and collaborating that way.
And that's a different version of that preparedness, right?
Yeah,
like, and you're preparing yourself, you're preparing everyone. And that pays dividends for the long haul because you're doing for the entire, everyone in that room and the whole organization too, because you know that spreadsheet is going to be really popular.
Yeah. And it's so funny you say that because I didn't even think about it this way. But anytime, so at my old job, I was a financial solutions manager for NetSuite implementations. So when we would get ready for these implementations, I would pull the CFO aside and I would tell him, just so you know, this is going to be like going to the dentist every day for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
It's going to be painful, it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be just unpleasant because there's going to be times where, you made an assumption and we can't meet that assumption. It happens. No matter what I tell you to do, it's going to happen. There's going to be times where I misunderstand what you wanted to do because I'm not in your head. It's just going to happen in these projects. And I didn't understand, like, now that you frame it that way, I didn't understand that I was preparing them for what was going to happen. And, more times than not, they'll put me aside as like, thank you for having that conversation with me. Like, anytime I would get angry, I would think he warned me about this. This was going to happen. So I think, preparedness of
Expectations management. Yeah. That's I hadn't clocked that until now. Yeah. It's such a, I think so much of what we do in the type of work that you and I do is laying groundwork, groundwork and just seeing when that'll be ready, and sometimes people will say, something that I've gotten before is like, I'm over preparing. I'm like, I would rather over prepare and not use half of my stuff.
Yep.
Than not be sitting there on my heels up every night until 2:00 in the morning trying to catch up because I didn't do that one thing. Everyone, so like that's, and people who aren't in our roles just always like stare at me like, why would you waste that kind of energy? But for me, it's never really been a waste. I don't know. How about, like, I don't know if you have a similar experience, not so, because like it's like, when am I over investing, right?
Yeah. There is no over investing, I feel like, because the feeling of when the scenario that you prepared for plays out, it's just such a rush. It's not a validation, I think, is too small of a word for that feeling of when an operator planned a scenario out, it's happening, and you've had the documentation or you have the solution prepared to deploy it. Because you're just like, oh, I'm not crazy. This is this is what exactly what I thought was going to happen.
And it's not an ego trip. You're not like, oh my gosh, look at me. It's just like, I paved the way. Yes. And look at them, like they get to thrive. The situation gets to thrive. The project gets to thrive. Whatever, the business gets to thrive. Whatever it is.
Absolutely. It is. I feel like I think good operators have a pathological need to be validated in their doomsday planning.
That hits hard.
It's the truth because we spend our time thinking about how things can go wrong. I honestly don't care how things can go right because that just means that I'm out of a job.
Well, the good news, when you work with humans and technology, I'm sure something will always go wrong.
Absolutely. I was working with a friend of mine, just recommended a project. Shout out, we're both part of Operators Guild. So it's a guild of operators come together. But he had said something that really resonated with me, which was people, processes, technology.
Okay.
People first, then the process, then the technology that you're working on. He's like, because you can't do the technology without the people or the processes. The process doesn't matter without the technology or the people. And people will always matter above those two other things. So he was like people, process, technology in that order.
And my business name is People Process Things.
There you go.
For the same reasons. For me, like things is much broader for me, but it's like, it's the same thing. And I think that there's enough frameworks that validate that, because it is with people like years ago, I never sat for my PMI certification. I never became a pump. But I remember from that, like stakeholder management, when they taught us a stakeholder, the definition of a stakeholder is like anyone who can impact your project for better or worse. I'm like, because people are first. And we work with people, and you want to make those people thrive. So like for different reasons, that people has to come first.
Absolutely. And what's interesting about that in those projects is when they talk about stakeholders, and you said the definition perfectly, anyone who can be impacted by the project that you're having. The lack of preparation sometimes is talking about the intern or the person that is junior, that is like, you're not, they'll figure it out. No, they're stakeholders as well. And you have to be prepared to answer their questions, train them on these things, because 3 people sat in a room and it was like, we're going to revamp this whole project because we're impacted slightly by this.
Yeah. As you're talking, what's coming to mind is something you and I have talked about casually in a different context, but like AI's role in all of this, right? Because, I think about interns, I think about AI, I think about people early in their career. You've mentioned them a couple of times. They need leadership. They don't like software will only get them so far, right? They need role models. They need people to mentor them, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's also, that's one angle of the AI. The other angle of the AI is, since we're talking about like this curiosity and preparedness, like how does AI play into this for you? Like when you're thinking about the preparedness piece of it, good or bad, because I feel both ways about AI.
AI is great for day-to-day stuff at a very kind of small, intimate, like small, and I say intimate because it's one-on-one. It shouldn't be organized way where it's just like someone is saying something that you don't fully understand. If you don't have the confidence to ask the question, that's fine. You can ask your ChatGPT, your Claude, your Gemini, hey, what is meant by this? Now, it has come out that AI hallucinates, that AI is not dependable. So don't take it at face value. And it should, don't want to say sparingly, but it should be used in instances where you're not making impactful decisions, and it still needs the human element. But yeah, I think there is use for AI for, drafting an email, for looking over your work, for understanding clarity in your documentation that you've been working on. I think that is incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
I use it. You use it.
I use it all the time, every day.
Yeah. Running a business, I don't have a marketing person. So please create this LinkedIn post for me, or apply to jobs, or doing things like that. It's very useful. Should AI be defining your strategy? Should it be replacing your junior person that is helping you put together some data models? No. Yeah. It's not reliable. Humans also, I haven't seen AI use the human aspect of catching anomalies in data or asking the dumb questions, because AI,
right.
So
it can't read a room.
It can't read a room. Yeah. Well, you said something earlier while we were preparing this, is that AIs are sycophants.
They're sycophants.
Yeah.
So it loves telling me how wonderful I am and how smart I am.
Exactly.
Like, thank you.
Exactly. And, a junior person might slip, hey, this is dumb. Like, why are we doing this? And or not even say that it's dumb. It's just like, hey, can you explain why we do this process? Right. I don't get it. And in explaining the process, you'd be like,
why do we do this? Yeah. Like I heard something, a good way that I heard AI described, and this was in the context of like Google search versus using something like a GPT, right? Yeah. AI is an echo of the data that existed when it came into the AI's large language model. Yeah. Right. So I'm like, I always think of it like that echo kind of thing. Like it's just like it may or may not be accurate. It may have bounced across a couple of different things, but yeah.
To also go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, please. I don't mind a side rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Side quest.
So I went to this AI and go-to-market strategy kind of thing. I know nothing about go-to-market strategy. It has become the buzzword. I feel like a lot of businesses are hiring for, they're looking for, is like, what is your GTM, especially startups. Like, so I was like, oh, let me learn more about this. And they were talking about AI's role in it. And I asked the dumb question. I was just like, what is the biggest roadblock for AI deployment? And they're just like, oh, adoption, oh, this or that. And my follow-up question was like, isn't it the data? Isn't it like, if you have bad data, what is the point of layering AI on top of that? If you don't have required fields, if you don't have great processes in place already that of like descriptions or anything like, you're going to have garbage in and garbage out. So for me, I think AI is, the jury's still out on like actual small business adoption, talking about like small and medium sized businesses, startups and stuff like that. Larger businesses, I feel like
maybe because I don't know if anyone ever fully tackled the big data problem.
Yeah.
Right. And those lakes of data, which data do you actually trust inside? Like what's the master data for this data point? Because it lives in 50 databases across an enterprise. So like,
what's the source of truth?
What's the single source of truth? Yeah.
Which were created by humans.
Right. And humans are messy. Yeah. No matter what we try and tell ourselves. So the story that started this conversation and the idea of coming onto the pod was early in your career. How has that shaped who you are, what your career path has been? How has that informed that? Or has it not? Did it just reinforce something that was already there?
No, I think early in my career path, I was going down an accounting and finance kind of trajectory. So, and I'll even give a little more context to that. I actually was in college for a couple of years. College just wasn't for me. Dropped out 2010 to 2015. Every odd job you could think of, I was doing. Retail, overnight doorman, canvassing, catering captain. I did it all. And when I landed at this B2B SaaS startup, I didn't know what B2B was or SaaS. I was just an office manager. Just was the guy stacking the shelves, making sure everyone in the office had what they need. And the CFO took notice of me. He was like, hey, you should join the finance team. I was like, sure. 3 months later, the CFO, this controller, and the senior finance associate all quit. College dropout, head of this SaaS B2B, multi-million in ARR, and kind of managing it. So there I was developing kind of like a bookkeeper trajectory and learning finance, learning accounting. I went back to school to try to get an accounting degree. We were talking about getting a CPA. I was like, oh, I'll go back to school and CPA. When my old manager, Lee, stepped in and started kind of mentoring me, and he said that, it was just kind of like, how are you the most prepared person in your room? It's honestly in operations and data. And what is the correlation between the two? If I'm talking about accounting is just the management of numbers. You're not there when the numbers are created. You're not there for sales. You're not there for sales ops. You're not there in the room discussing vendor contracts and which are the vendor partners for you, right for you, and how are they best for the businesses. You're not there. One of the projects that I did was moving from our servers to AWS. So what is the cost benefit analysis around that? Accounting doesn't really get you prepared for that. Yeah. So
I thought of it that way. Yeah.
So to say that conversation greatly informed my career path. And how are you the most prepared person in the room? How are you most prepared for handling business in changing environments? You're the person that's in the middle. You're the person not only managing the finances and the accounting, but you're also managing deal structure. You're helping the leaders understand where we are in a cash position. You're understanding that FP&A is not always reliable. and you have to go to sales and talk to different leaders and understand what their take is on the business. And then ask the dumb questions to all of them. Hey, sales manager, you're saying that we're going to get $3 million in the next quarter. You really believe that? Yeah. Do you really believe that? It's more like 2.6. Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
Number.
Yeah.
Let's
That's a
move
better
it down.
number. Yeah. Client management, we say that we're going to have a 90% renewal rate. What's really going on? Man, these two customers, so it's going to be like 85. Talking to people and understanding that, and then putting that all together and being in the room, just like, hey, this is kind of actually where everyone's the temperature check is really going to be. This is where we understand. And I think that's to the podcast, the messy middle.
Yeah. No, it's like what's coming to mind, and we're generalists.
Yeah.
We're generalists, and it's like that. I'm just thinking about that squiggly path that you had post college, like before you landed where you landed, right? Like trying a whole bunch of different things, like and feel. I think that thought about preparedness and landed on fertile soil.
Yeah.
Because you already were that type of person who was trying lots of different stuff and willing to do a hustle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a different approach, and willing to have those conversations with people and push them just a little bit.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, you don't want to make them uncomfortable, but you want to get them to be honest.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And I think up until that point, you always try to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
And being a college dropout, being unsure of my career path, I never was able to do that. And in accounting, you have to be, because you have to know the numbers or everything like that. But I think from that conversation forward, you get to the game is actually just knowing as much as possible and being in a position to ask as much as possible, so that you know what's going on.
Yeah. And people love talking about themselves.
Yeah.
Or the things that they're passionate about. Depends on what it is. You can if you engage with curiosity, it's amazing what they'll share.
Yeah,
it's amazing what they'll share.
Well, company happy hours too. You get a couple of old fashions. You'll know all the secrets.
That's true too.
Yeah.
That is very, very true. I've had my that's a different podcast. That's the after dark version.
Yeah.
That's the after dark version. We covered a lot of ground.
I feel like we went left, we went right.
We were squiggly and curious and yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for taking the time. I hope that we'll do this again, because I feel like we have lots of other things that we can talk about.
I think we treaded water on some deep levels that we could have went a little more.
We could have gone deeper on a whole bunch of different things, but I think that whole wanted to cover the spectrum of preparedness, which is, pretty broad.
Yeah,
pretty broad.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And
thank you for having me.
It's truly my pleasure. And I'm sure that our listeners are going to get something really great out of this. So
awesome.
Thanks for joining me on The Messy Middle.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. All right.
Awesome.
That was fun.
That was great.
Thanks for taking time with us in The Messy Middle. Word of mouth remains the most powerful way for people to find us. If this episode sparked something for you, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app, download a few episodes, and share it with someone else who's navigating the in-between. Do you have ideas for future episodes or topics you'd like us to explore? You can find our feedback form at themessymiddlematters.com or in the show notes. Thank you for joining us on this journey. This work is better when we do it together. Until next time.